Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners. Just want to give you a little information about the mission of the Newsa-Cast. Our mission stems from the mission of the Red Smith Banquet, and that mission was to support youth sports in the Fox Valley. Over the 57 years of its existence, we've been honored to give out over $1 million to various youth sports organizations throughout the Fox Valley. The Newsa-Cast is looking to continue that mission and support youth sports as well. You can help us do that by donating to the Newsa-Cast and the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
On today's Newsa-Cast, we have a twofer for the people. We're talking volleyball with Jason Wheelock, Fox Valley Performance Volleyball. We have a couple of student athletes, 2024 Freedom graduate Breana Griesbach and a Kimberly graduate, 2025 Owen Krause. Get a perspective of what it's like to be a student athlete, in particular volleyball, and what's next for these kids. Tosh and I take an old look at new, which is presented by Raleigh Winter. Our Red Smith Banquet Throwback this week. It's a great one. It takes us back to 1999. And what a Hall of Famer we have. Not only a Brewer Hall of Famer, but an MLB Hall of Famer as well. And talk about number 4, Paul Molitor. One of the best pure hitters ever. Man, it was great to have Molly. And we end the show like we always do with a little It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what do you say? Let's get this show on the road.
I think volleyball is just the ultimate team sport. That unique dynamic of having everybody out there communicating and then not just one player can dominate. It's a little harder to have success. I mean, you give me LeBron James on a basketball team, I'm going to have a pretty good basketball team. You have 6 players. Everybody has to be part of the team. Everyone's got to do everything.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to another episode of the Newsa-Cast. We're having a blast doing this. We hope you enjoy and continue to enjoy listening. If this is your first time, fantastic. Go back and listen to some of the other episodes that we have banked. They're all really, really good. We've had just a fascinating time listening to people and their stories, and we think they're going to enjoy it as well.
Some say, Tosh, we're a spike in success.
That's a good pun this week, Joe. Nice job.
Thanks.
Nice job. You've been banking that one for a while.
We're working all week on that one. Got it.
That brings a good point. We're going to hear some volleyball this week and listen to a little bit of the club scene and the high school scene from 2 high school players. So it's going to be fun. This is the first time second time actually. We talked to Luke Harrigus at Xavier and talked about his state run with his team. And so now we're going to take a little bit of look at the club side, which is going to be a fantastic interview. You guys are going to really enjoy listening to the student athletes, and then also listen to Jason Wheelock from Fox Valley Performance, right?
Yes, Fox Valley Performance, the volleyball. It's kind of a cool episode for us, Tosh. We dive into the world of volleyball. You and I are not super familiar with it, but that sport certainly exploded, and it's pretty cool to get the point of view of a couple of really sharp student athletes that we had fun talking with, and then Jason kind of fills us in on how the volleyball world works, like you said. So, pretty cool episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how's your week, Joe? I know we had a snowstorm. You're struggling through that. Luckily, all that snow has melted, and hopefully, your bike rides and your mail delivery has gotten a little bit better.
Yeah, the fat tire got to work out this week, that's for sure. So did the legs, but ended the week pretty well, Tosh. You and I always record on a Sunday night. This past Saturday, I found myself with some friends at Deja Vu and stumbled into a really, really awesome funk R&B band called Stank Town. I don't know much about them. I think they're kind of local kids. They're not real old. But okay. Man, can they lay a groove, and that music just thumps right through you. And we had a great time. It was fun to go to Deja Vu. Haven't had a martini in a while. Tosh had one. But yeah, got down to this band, ran into some guys from Diggstown. They were checking them out as well. So it was a fun
excellent.
show. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Did you order it shaken, not stirred?
Tasha, I think this is a kid's show. I can't tell you the name of the actual martini, but it lived up to the name. I'll tell you that.
Okay. So it wasn't a James Bond type of martini. This was a little bit different, huh?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. It was euphoric, so to speak. It was
All
good.
right.
Refreshing. Very refreshing.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. Refreshing like the music. But how about you, Tosh? What was going on this week? I know you got a snow day. That had to be fun.
Yeah. It wasn't a snow day. I tell my students because they said I was wrong because I said we weren't going to have one. It was a power outage day.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, the reason we didn't have school is because of the power outages around the community. Otherwise, I told the students, I said, I really think you're talking about a 2-hour delay, if anything. And, it was actually probably worse Tuesday night than it was Wednesday morning. But we didn't do much. Kind of just had a relaxing week. It was one of those where you don't do much of anything, and that's kind of nice once in a while.
No, absolutely. Did you lose power? I know whatever night, or actually it was the day after the storm, was really kind of seen when a lot of the power went out. A couple of the neighborhoods I was in had generators going. It was knocked out. It was knocked out for blocks. Yeah,
we just a little bit to the south of us, closer to the lake, lost power, and they had without power for I don't know how many hours. Might have even been close to a day, but yeah, we did not lose power in our neighborhood. It flickered once. It was enough to reset some of the electronics, but I mean, if it was out for more than 10, 15 seconds, that was about it.
Right.
So we got lucky. Yeah, very lucky. How about yourself?
Well, no, I was good too. Post office actually lost power. I was in the post office and went pitch black for about 30 seconds. Kind of weird, but it was all good. But yeah, early in the week, we get the snowstorm. Of course, the weather turns nice and we could finally get some spring sports playing. I know Appleton United struggled on the weekend. It's not the way Danny wanted to get the boys out and playing, but it's early. There's a lot of season left, but it was nice to actually see lacrosse and flipping on the news at night to see the lacrosse being covered in the local sports. It was the season's here and the boys are playing, and girls. Yeah. All the spring sports really gear up this week now, and that'll be exciting to start talking about some baseball, some softball, some soccer, lacrosse. All of those track and field as well. All of the sports that are going on. It's about time we get some spring sports, and the week looks pretty good. Except for tomorrow, which is the one day that I was really gearing up for my earth science classes and getting out to see the eclipse. Yeah. I still keep my fingers crossed that we have some breaks. The peak of it is at 2:08 on Monday. But you can't control Mother Nature. But the Great American Eclipse, I'm pretty excited about it. The most coverage population-wise that the United States has ever seen. Yeah, which is pretty crazy. It's kind of cool to watch the coverage, the computer, however you get your content. There's a lot of cool things out there to show this. Yeah, you're right, man. This universe, Mother Nature, it's incredible. And when you get to catch these special events, of course, this podcast is coming out after it happened. So I trust we all enjoyed it. I know I did. I'm pretty sure I did. It is the first. I mean, we probably won't be around, but in 2099, there'll be a full eclipse that happens in Appleton. Yeah. And then 7 years later, there'll be another full eclipse that comes across northern Wisconsin. Minneapolis will actually get it in 2099 and in 2107. There'll be a full eclipse in both of those. There's a lot of advancement in medicine. Maybe we can get another 20, 25 years yet in our lifetime. Yeah, you know what? Myself and Ted Williams will just cut our heads off and be in the cold storage. And when they can replace our heads onto a new body, we'll be all set. There you go. Teddy Bomb Pop. Well, Tosh, we better probably stop this open or we're going to get ourselves in trouble. So I don't know. Probably go take an old look at new. What do you say? Sounds like a good call. It's that time again. once again for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and/or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox Cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, it is time for that look at history where we take a dive into Appleton, the Fox Cities, the state, the nation, whatever we kind of catches our eye. So here's that old look at new. Joe, what do you got this week?
Well, Tosh, I can think of nothing more Appleton and nothing more appropriate to take an old look at new than to say congratulations to WHBY that celebrated 99 years on air, April 5th, coincidentally my dad's birthday, 1925. April 5th, 1925, WHBY came on air, and they're obviously a staple of this area, the voice of the Fox Cities. Dave Edwards, the morning host, it was a longtime MC. Bob Lloyd did sports for WHBY for years through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He was the long time Red Smith, Master of Ceremonies, committee member, the whole boot. And yeah, I thought that was pretty special. I saw that, and they've moved around too. I think about the original. I don't know if it's the original station, but for a lot of years, their station, when you go down Law Street into the flats, right by the old Nina paper right there, there's a small little building that was actually WHBY for a lot before they moved out to the East College Avenue location. So
wow.
Yeah, and they are, they used. Do you remember their old call letters? They're 1150 WHBY now. Do you remember their old numbers? Yeah, 12.
No, I do not.
It was 1230 WHBY.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, yeah, congrats to WHBY. We'll continue to listen. I have no doubt about that. Tosh, how about you? What are you taking a look at today?
Well, it seems like April 5th is a good day. I mean, you have your dad, the person who could tell an entire joke while he was laughing after he told it the first time, which was amazing. It was a talent. But April 5th, 1974, the one and only Robin Yount made his major league debut.
Yeah.
He was, we just had Jackson Churio from the Brewers make his, and he was the 5th youngest player to make his debut, behind Ken Griffey Jr., Adrian Beltran, and then Robin Yount twice, because he was 18 and 19, all under 20 years old. I mean, Robin Yount had a pretty nice career, 3,142 hits, 3 Silver Slugger Awards, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1999. He's had a good career, so maybe Jackson Churio can have a good career for the Brewers as well.
Robin was MVP at 2 different positions as well, right? Shortstop, center field.
Yeah. And you know what? I remember growing up watching Robin and watching the throwback this week, Paul Molitor, which is incredible. Those two were my guys. Those are the guys to watch. I played some center field, so Robin Yount was pretty incredible. What an amazing athlete.
So fluid, long strides. Yeah, could do everything.
Yeah,
could hit, run, throw.
Nice mullet.
Yeah, excellent mullet. Still carries a great mullet.
He does.
Yeah,
and. Was it driving around County Stadium on the Harley?
Yeah.
After the 82?
Motorcycle guy?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep. One of a kind for sure.
Boy, it was a lot of fun to follow the Brewers back in those early 80s, mid 80s.
Yeah.
Those teams. So good. Harvey's Wallbangers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love it. That was our old look at new presented by Raleigh Winter.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, we're going to have kind of a two-part interview this week. We're going to start off with a couple local high school players. We've got Owen Krause from Kimberly, and we've got Breana Griesbach from Freedom. They're going to give us a little insight into playing high school volleyball, but also lead us into what it's like playing at the club level. They did a fantastic job, Joe.
I think you, the listener, are going to be impressed listening to Breana and Owen talk about their passion of volleyball, but too, just what sharp and talented kids these are.
Yeah, they did a great job. We'll be looking for all the good things that they do in the future because they're just outstanding young people, and we really enjoyed having them on the podcast.
So we've got Breana Griesbach, and you go to Freedom, right, and graduate in 2024? Very nice. How long have you been playing volleyball?
I've been playing since I've been 12, but I played on a 13s team. I kind of did like stuff through school, but I really like started playing when I was 12.
Nice. Okay. Oh, do you play other sports?
No, I did track for 2 years, and then I kind of just stuck with volleyball and played that year round.
Yes, very nice. Because that's sort of, and we were going to talk to Jason about this a little bit, but I mean, volleyball now, like most sports, is year round, isn't it?
Yeah, because we have like school ball, which goes like from August to October, November, and then club, if you're on a national team, it'll go till June, and then you have beach volleyball from June to August.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Owen, when did you start playing volleyball?
Well, I started playing organized volleyball like 4 years ago, but when I've been younger, like I played in like some grass tournaments with my parents and stuff like that. So that kind of is what got me started, but I haven't played like organized volleyball till like 8th grade year around there.
All right.
What out of all the sports out there, what led you to volleyball? Why volleyball?
Well, my entire family is big in volleyball. I kind of dropped a lot of like all my other sports to play volleyball all year round because it gets stressful because I used to play basketball my freshman year, and it just got to be a lot. But I really see myself having a future in volleyball, so that kind of what persuaded me to play volleyball over basketball and all the other sports. And
like Breana, you play year round as well?
Yeah.
Breana, what got you into playing? What was the thing that, and this is for either of you, what was the thing that basically it was like, this is my sport? What drives you? What makes you love the sport of volleyball?
Well, I honestly, I'm the like oldest daughter in my family, and I was the first one who started playing volleyball. So I kind of, like I said, I started with the school like clinics and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, this is fun. But I played a lot of sports when I was younger, so it was kind of just what I did. But then when I was in 6th grade, my school had an announcement to play on a club team. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I tried out and I made the team. And my first year club, it wasn't great, but I was like, you know what, like I'm going to try again. And really after like my second year, I like had a really good team and I really loved my coaches. So that just kind of like got me into the game. Like, I don't know, kind of like addicted almost.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On.
I mean, just trying to be better than my older brother. I am the middle child, so just kind of trying to be better than my older brother, but then also trying to set an example for my younger brother as well is just kind of a big key. Because he can get a little selfish at times because he's a freshman right now playing on an 18s team, so I can definitely see how that gets to somebody's head for sure. But just to try to like humble him and just to try to teach him the ways a little bit, try to get him better than me and my older brother is kind of what gets me to practice and play volleyball all the time.
You guys are actually teenagers. You sound like mature adults. Congratulations. You guys are awesome.
Volleyball, I mean, I'm short. I never played volleyball, but there's a ton of athleticism that goes with volleyball. You have to be quick. You have to be able to jump. You have to have great eye-hand coordination. What are some of the skills that have helped you guys throughout the sport?
For me, I mean, jumping, being quick and all that is definitely like a big factor, but the mentality part of it is probably the biggest part for me. It definitely gets frustrating because, I mean, you don't always have to be like, there's definitely shorter people that, you know, get like, how do I put it? Definitely takes a toll on people. Like liberos are usually shorter than middles, but like you're not always gonna be the best person on the court, and just having like a strong mentality throughout the entirety of the game, the sport, is just a big part of it.
I kind of agree with that statement. Like, I mean, I'm a setter, and I would definitely say like you have to be fast and you have to be on your toes and stuff. It's all important, but really volleyball is like any coach, any good coach will tell you that like it's all a mental game. And if you don't have a good mental game, you're not going to succeed in the sport. So really just that. And that can, I mean, from volleyball, like that taught me a lot too, just in life. So I feel like that's a really important skill to have.
I like that. A lot of the athletes that Tosh and I have interviewed, we've asked that question a lot. One, how do you overcome failure? But two, you're taking what you're learning in sports, the competition, the failure, everything that you're learning in sports, you're applying that to real life and realizing that those skills are going to be important down the road for you guys. That's really cool to hear, and something that we don't necessarily hear all the time from athletes your age. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm excited to hear that. I'm excited for the future for you guys for sure.
So speaking of like the future as well, so what are your plans? Where's volleyball going to take you? And what are some of your plans as you're moving forward?
Yeah, for me, volleyball is kind of just my whole life right now. So I'm planning to go to college for it, starting the recruiting process and all that. But yeah, that's kind of my plan, is just volleyball. It kind of controls my life a little bit. So I'm just kind of seeing where it takes me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just committed in January, not for volleyball, but just for like academics to UW-Madison.
Okay.
So I am not going to play in college, but I'm waiting to find out like my course load and like what other clubs I want to do, but I'm interested at looking in like club volleyball or even just like intramurals just to stay active in the sport because I love the sport so much.
Okay.
You guys as student athletes, can you talk to me a little bit about what your schedule is like, your training schedule for volleyball? How do you balance the workload of school and just being kids? I mean, how do you balance all that? I guess starting with your training, what's your training look like? How often do you do it? I mean, you obviously have practices and things like that, but do you do, individual work as well on your footwork, all your skills, things like that?
Well, so we only have practice 2 times a week for about 2 hours, Monday, Wednesday. So the actual volleyball part isn't what's draining at all, but I do like lifting and stuff like that outside. Like I don't do any extra volleyball work outside of practice because I just take practice seriously and just train as hard as I can to try to get better in the moment. But then I take care of like the lifting, the agility stuff and all that outside on my personal time.
Right. And that's pretty important, isn't it? I mean, is that something that you almost do daily or several times a week, year round?
Yeah, I try to get it in as best I can. I mean, sometimes schoolwork is more important than lifting and all that. So, I mean, sometimes I might have to miss because of school, but Kimberly does offer like a strength and conditioning class where you do lift every single day. So I try to take that as often as I can.
Sure.
Just try to stay active for a class all day and then get in my schoolwork outside of school.
Excellent. Breana, what's your training look like?
So during club, I would say it's definitely more of a calmer, I guess, training regimen, you could say. My coaches it's called cross-court conversations. So it's centered for like Hmong athletes in the Fox Valley area, but he also lets like his like athletes that he coaches like for club or just like that he knows really well come to it. So we have the 2 practices a week on Monday, Wednesday too, but they also host like optional practices that we can go to. So we like to take advantage of those because it's more practice with like your main coach, and it also can be kind of more one-on-one because like not everybody can always go to those. But in our like normal club practices, our coaches also will do like an agility workout. Most of the time it is like we'll do a lot of jumping workouts and stuff because their biggest thing is they don't care. Well, they care about how well we do in the season, but they just want to get us better for the future.
Let's say you're talking to a group of young kids and your job is basically to try to convince them or try to get them to start the sport of volleyball. What would you tell them that's going to help it click for them like it did for you guys?
Well, for me, luckily our middle school does run like a little league, I guess, where all the middle school that want to play volleyball sign up, and I was lucky enough to coach some of the kids. So, I mean, just speaking from experience so far, just making just a sport of volleyball as fun as you can as a coach and not, try to ruin it right away, like push them to their limits right away. I mean, they can save that for high school, but just from a middle school standpoint for a kid, you just want to get them interested, keep them active, and just having fun all around. I feel like that's really helped a lot of the kids and made them come up to me and say, hey, we're going to try it out in high school and see how it goes.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement, kind of just making it fun, but also I like to tell a lot of kids just to stick with it. And even though it might be hard at first, you can get better, no matter, if you keep doing it, keep practicing, you're going to get better. There's no doubt about that. So I just kind of remind them that, because sometimes it can be frustrating when you're picking up a new sport, because volleyball doesn't really, at least for in my school and where I'm from, volleyball isn't super huge until you're in middle school, versus when you play baseball or basketball, that's right away in preschool.
Yeah.
So just kind of sticking with it and understanding that it's going to be frustrating at times, but just have confidence in yourself.
That is pretty interesting. When typically do kids start to pick up volleyball? Because you're right. I mean, usually you grow up playing baseball, basketball early on in grade school. When do kids typically start picking up volleyball?
I think it really depends. When I started, we didn't start anything serious until middle school, but now there's more options for younger kids. I know FEP has a bunch of options, and there's beach volleyball out there are starting to accommodate for younger kids too.
Do you beach volleyball is fun to watch. Talk about that. So you play that in the summer. Is that indoor, or are you playing it outdoor? And that's a league that you're playing locally, correct?
Yeah. So I did the past 3 years. I did training. FEP actually has a beach program, and they do 2 practices a week with a bunch of tournaments that you can sign up for and stuff. And they also bring you to different camps. There was one at the Wapaka Boat Ride tournament last year, and it was run by Out of System, which was really cool. But then I also did private trainings with other coaches, and just trainings with me and my partner too, with other programs.
Sure. Okay. Owen, do you play beach volleyball or sand volleyball as well?
Not really. I'm not a big beach guy. I usually do camps and stuff like that, so I usually don't have a lot of time for beach volleyball. But I mean, there's a local beach court that I'll grab some guys with and just go play some volleyball just to kind of get out there,
work the skills. So when you guys are traveling with FVP, what you life on the road? I mean, you guys are going all at this age now. Are you going all over the U.S., all over the Midwest playing? What's your travel schedule look like for volleyball?
For us this year, we've been for out of state wise, we've been to Minnesota, and we're going to Chicago, and then nationals for us is in Florida this year. But we do play a lot in Milwaukee too. That's where most of our tournaments are.
Sure. Owen, how about you? You're seeing the U.S.?
Quite a bit. I mean, mainly Chicago. That's kind of where I've played most this year. Sure. I played in Chicago, and then Indianapolis has been the furthest that I've gone, and then Florida as well for nationals. But I've played a couple in Milwaukee. Definitely gets exhausting for sure, traveling. But yes. I mean, I definitely think it's worth the drive.
So when you are traveling, you go even to nationals in Florida. How many games do you play a day on average?
That's a tough question. I mean, it all depends on the pool size, but so far this year, I'd say probably 2 to 4 games a day, maybe.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. We for most 2-day tournaments, it's definitely 2 to 4. But if you get into like 1-day tournaments, we had one day where we played 6 games and 3 of them were in a row.
Oh,
But
wow.
you don't get many 1-day tournaments like when you're on a nationals team, so it's more spread out.
Okay. So you guys both play in some tough conferences. I know some of the schools that you're playing against. What is it like on a game day for high school when you're playing an FVL or a Xavier, or you're playing Appleton North? How jacked up do you get? Is your fans? Do you have a good following with the fans and everything else as well?
We do get pretty excited. I mean, in our conference, like there's kind of a I can't think of the word, like a reputation. Like when we play Lux Casco or like FVL, it's like, oh, they're good. And because they have a decent program, like they've been good for a while. But really, we just tried like not to think about that and just focus on ourselves. And like especially our parents, like our students are supportive of us too, but our parents are always just like super loud no matter what's going on. So it really just helps because, you have like someone behind you, even if you're losing or winning.
Yeah.
Now, Owen, that paper maker lightning game, that's not much of a game, right? That's
I mean, definitely top 3 moments for volleyball for me, 100%. It's just electric for sure. I mean, coming in as the underdogs against Appleton North, they've been dominating all season, and just to have just a student section, packed out gym like that, I mean, it doesn't feel real in the moment. But I mean, the nerves definitely get to you 100%. But I mean, leading up to that moment, I mean, there were definitely games where there was just parents in the stands, no students. But I mean, it's just like a mental thing, like we were talking about before. Like even when there is no energy in the gym, like an Appleton North game compared to like a Appleton West game, Appleton East game, like you have to create your own energy, not just like from everybody else around you.
right.
I do have a question kind of leading into maybe not life after, but I know you've mentioned the mental aspect. What are some other things that playing high school volleyball, playing club volleyball have you gained that's going to help you as you transition into college and you transition into life after?
Definitely a work ethic. I feel like that's probably tied up there with how important, like compared to mentality, because if you don't have a work ethic, like in volleyball, I mean, or in any sports, in life in general, you're not going to get anywhere. And I feel like it's so important to have a good work ethic, even when you don't feel like having one, that there's like, you kind of learn that you can't go on without one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Work ethic is definitely, for me, it's definitely number one. But if I had to pick another one, it would be communication. Communication is obviously just a big part of volleyball in general, but I mean, on the court, communication, like you always have to be talking, stuff like that. But even just like talking to coaches, talking to teammates, just like building a culture around you it's a big part of the game as well. Because if you don't have a good connection with like your coaches, your teammates, I mean, everything kind of just falls apart by itself.
Communication kind of will do that, right? If you don't do that, everything goes to hell. I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys, are you playing against some of your teammates, your Fox Valley Performance teammates? They're playing all through the FVA and all the different schools around, so you go up against them from time to time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that like? Do you like that or not like that, or is it
It's
extra
so
motivation?
fun.
Yeah.
Like we played, I mean, not specifically my teammates. We played a bunch of them, but we played my club coach, who I had for my 17s year, and I have him now. He coaches at Chilton, so we played them in a tournament last year, and it was just so fun because you can kind of like mess around with them and like trash talk, but at the same time, like it's just good to see each other.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
So, Owen, were there teammates on that Lightning game as well? Do you have crosstown rivals or cross-city rivals?
Well, I didn't really play with any of the guys on my team currently until after that game. So, I mean, definitely some bitter moments at the beginning of the season between us, but we've all, grown past it and just have come together as a collective group to work together and focus on the FEP season rather than having a rivalry from the high school season.
No, that makes sense. Jason, you've got two great athletes here. I'll tell you that.
I completely agree. Very, very happy to have them to be a part of FEP. And I say it all the time, maybe not to them as much as I should, but the younger kids in our program have some very special kids to look up to. So they may not know it, but the younger kids all know their names, like they're little professional volleyball players running around. I have my own sons that are in the program that are young. So I get to hear them talk about the older players on both the boys and the girls side. So it is special to hear the young ones talking about these guys.
No, I bet that's good to hear. Definitely. Well, Breana, I know it's a school night, maybe a snow night, perhaps, but
hopefully,
yeah.
In freedom, there's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
So I know you probably have homework and you're very limited on time. So we really, really appreciate you guys coming on. It's awesome to have student athletes. We haven't had a bunch of them on this podcast. We really would like to start doing that more. So thank you. And you guys, I mean, I've said it now 3 times, but you guys are really impressive for your age. So it's a pleasure to meet you and going to definitely be following your careers. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, you can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Please help us grow by subscribing or sharing the Newsa-Cast with friends, or follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram.
All right, Tosh, our second interview. We sit down, Tosh, we talk with Jason Wheelock, who is the Director of Volleyball Operations for Fox Valley Performance. They're a volleyball club here locally. Interesting interview, Tosh. We really, like we said in the open, you and I didn't fully understand how the volleyball world worked, and Jason fills us in. We learned a lot.
Yeah, and really knowing that this is such a growing sport. We've talked about lacrosse being a growing sport, but volleyball is, if not growing faster, but it has been for many years. And if you don't know a lot about Jason, I've mentioned Jason's name to a few volleyball people, and they know exactly who he is. He is, if you're in volleyball, you know Jason Wheelock. So a great interview. He does an awesome job talking a little bit about himself growing up and where the future of Fox Valley Performance is going as well.
No, you're right. There's a lot of that stuff. It's exciting to understand how it worked, and then you're right where it's going, and it kind of ties into our Matt Tenhanken interview at the Champion Center and what's going on out there. All of this works hand in hand. You begin to kind of understand why certain things start to happen. Why do you need to add courts to Fox Valley, to the Champion Center, because what Jason is telling us.
I just want to mention too, because it's kind of towards the end of the interview, but they have an amazing event in Oshkosh. That's the Wapaka boat ride, because it did actually start in Wapaka. It's the second weekend in July. So that's one, like I think Jason said, the largest outdoor volleyball tournament in the entire country. So check that out if you're interested in volleyball. And even if you're not, check it out. They have entertainment, bands, food, lots of volleyball, just a great event.
Yes, check it out and enjoy our interview with Jason Wheelock. How long have you been playing or involved with volleyball? I mean, it's been decades now.
Oh yeah, it's been forever. So my mom and dad played, so I probably started the first time maybe touching a volleyball was, probably 10 or 11 years old. I was a basketball kid, but mom and dad played a lot of volleyball. So, and then played my first tournament when I was 13. There was no club volleyball back then,
right.
Yep.
So I was playing adult stuff, and then started playing with my mom and dad, who were pretty successful volleyball players. I started playing with them when I was 14 years old. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, that's one of the things we wanted to talk about, because you're right. I mean, volleyball was basically nothing when we were growing up, or very little. And it's just, then you had bars open, like the bar opened up with sand volleyball courts, and people were blown away. And from there, it's just, I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, it's absolutely seems like it's just exploded at the high school and club level, and it's been incredible to watch, really.
Yeah, it definitely has exploded. It's been tracking for, almost close to a decade now, the number one growing sport every year after year after year in the country. It's just going everywhere. And boys volleyball is starting to add to those numbers, quite a bit. So, yeah.
What do you suppose the reason is for that? Why volleyball? It's a great sport. I can understand why, but why volleyball?
Well, I think it's like the ultimate. Of course, I played it. I grew up playing basketball, but I think volleyball is just the ultimate team sport. The kids talked about before, Breana and Owen talked about like communication and some of the things you need to be successful at it. But it's also so much fun because it's the only sport that you have 6 players, right, in a confined space. It's the most amount of people in such a small place, and the relationships that need to happen to find success at any level, whether it be the top team in a club or the lowest team in the club, you need to have that. And it's just fun. And I think that's how humans are made, right? We're supposed to interact with one another. So I think that's why volleyball kind of takes off, and it's a little harder to have success. You give me LeBron James on a basketball team, I'm going to have a pretty good basketball team. Volleyball is not, you just can't, everybody has to participate. Everybody has to be part of the team. So I think that unique dynamic of having everybody out there communicating, and then not just one player can dominate. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got to serve, right? Everyone's got to do everything. I think it's one of the unique sports out there. So I think that's why it's probably getting a lot of success and growing.
That is really interesting because you're right. In a lot of sports, you really only, especially at the high school level, maybe need 1 or 2 just stud athletes, and you can probably win. But volleyball is not like that. That's interesting to hear.
Thinking about the growing and the success, the women's programs in college have just become more popular and more popular all the time as well. When you're having Nebraska fill up a football stadium, right, and you're having the success that Wisconsin women have had over the last, it seems like forever. Has that played a big role in recruiting people into the programs as well?
Without a doubt. I'll be honest. I think some of them see those matches now. It's on TV a lot more, right? Hey, I want to go there and play. And when they're young, I don't think they understand quite what it takes to get to that level. But who cares, right? There have been boys and girls watching basketball and baseball forever, football, not quite knowing. And it just, they develop a love for the game. And eventually they figure out maybe they're not going to play on ESPN for Nebraska or Wisconsin. But it helps them fall in love with the game. It really does. So yes, with ESPN and so many streaming channels now, broadcasting those women's matches, that definitely helps recruiting players to play club or high school volleyball.
Fox Valley Performance Volleyball. Tell me about your program. Where's it located? Tell us about it.
So Fox Valley Performance, or FVP, right? A friend of mine, Jeff Justice, started it a little over 10 years ago. Jeff has been in the volleyball world for forever. I met Jeff when I was in high school, when I was 14. He was doing a camp or clinic in Kaukauna. And my Phi Ed teacher got me in connection with him because she knew I liked volleyball. So I met him all those years ago, and now he kind of knew that I had 2 boys that were going to start playing pretty soon. He's kind of on his way out. So we're in the process of me buying the club from him.
Congrats.
So next year the club will be mine. Thank you. He started the club 10 years ago. He added teams. So he started it as a training program only. Okay. He added teams about 7 years ago. And at most, I believe he was right around, about 4 years ago, he was right around 24 teams. Okay. This year we were at 16 teams. And that fluctuates. Sure. Basically, gym time is what that if you have available gym time. you can add more teams, and obviously you got to find more coaches.
Right.
So last year we could have had over 20 teams. We just didn't have the gym space. I could have found the coaches. Unfortunately, I did have coaches there. We just didn't have the gym space.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's a little bit about FE. We're located in Appleton. Most of our teams practice at the Champion Center.
Sure.
Okay.
Out behind the mall. And then we had we had 2 teams practice at St. Matt's here in Appleton, St. Matt's Lutheran. One team practiced in Kaukauna at St. Mary's. And then we had our first ever satellite program up in Kashina, Wisconsin.
Nice.
I'm Native American. I'm Oneida, so I've always wanted to kind of help give back to my community. So we have a coach up there that had coached on the boys' side for us last year. We kind of talked back and forth, and we got a team up there. So first ever team on the reservation.
Nice.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, their community helped out quite a bit. They got them a place to play and practice, and it was the first of hopefully many different programs on different reservations in the state. So
that's
we
great
were
to
pretty
hear.
proud about that. Yeah.
Lacrosse and volleyball, they go hand in hand.
Right, they do. Yes, they do. One's a little more physical than the other.
How is that? How's the community, the Oneida community? How is that going? How do you feel it's going to embrace volleyball?
They will, without a doubt. They do. I remember some of my favorite tournaments that I ever played, and I've played all over the country. Was playing back then in all Indian volleyball tournaments with my mom and dad out there in Oneida, and it's just a sport they've always played.
That's awesome.
These tournaments were, at the time co-ed sixes or whatever, and they'd have 20 teams there, and from all different nations, and it was a pretty good time. So yes, I believe every Oneida especially, but I think they will embrace it for sure. Actually, one of Breana's backup setters, or they switched off setting, was Oneida girl that just happens to go to Freedom. She's really good.
Nice.
She's going to be an up and comer for sure. So
nice. No, that's good to hear.
yeah.
So you, it's part of FVP. So you have indoor volleyball. The Breana and Owen talked about beach volleyball, the sandbox, I believe you call it. That's interesting. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Do you actually have a court, or are you using like the bars court? Where do you find in sand courts?
Yeah. So you had brought them up earlier, the bar. So I've had a relationship with the actual bar, the one that started in Green Bay all those years ago.
Shout out Jess Miller.
Right. Jess Miller. Yes. I've known Jess for quite a long time. Jess sponsored quite a few of our traveling men's and co-ed volleyball teams over the years. And then I was around when the Appleton bar first opened up, and Mark Miller had that, Ronnie had that. And then I started playing. Ronnie sponsored us quite a bit. So we do have the beach program, and we run it. So the sandbox, that's in reference to one of our coaches and one of our friends, Carrie Klister out of Kaukauna. She runs the sandbox. We help promote each other's programs. She does a great job over there. Our FVP beach program, we have what we call North Beach, and that's at the Appleton bar, and we have South Beach at the Oshkosh bar. Kind of, if you're ever in California, that's kind of, that's how they talk.
That's right.
I'm going to the North Beach. I'm going to South Beach. I'm going, so we have North Beach at the Appleton bar and South Beach at the Oshkosh bar.
Bringing that California volleyball lingo to Wisco. Like it.
Right. Just not the weather.
Yeah.
So what are your numbers? So we talk about club sports. I know my kids' friends have played, and when they try out like a whole bunch of different teams, and then they get this limited time and they have to pick and choose. How does that work for volleyball?
I think there could be a better way. I'll say that it is a stressful time for everybody that's involved. But we need to. I'm also on the board of directors for the Badger region for the entire state of Wisconsin. So when they hear me saying it could be done better, they'll probably be like, what are you talking about? But it is, if you think of it, like you said, some of the kids and what they got to do. I mean, some of them have 3 tryouts in one day, and they're just they're literally, you see them literally running out of our gym or running into our gym to come from a different club, throwing their shoes on quick and running out there. Sometimes they even have a shirt from a different club, on. I never care about that. Like, just come on in. You're working that hard. I'm not going to make you change a shirt. Just get in here. So it is stressful. Like, they need to make the teams. I think the process does help. It's stressful as far as trying to get to as many tryouts as you can on that, because you only get one weekend traditionally. But yeah, it's just stressful. So the board did approve this year. This will be the first time that we do this in Wisconsin. Some other regions do this. We are going to let clubs have summer tryouts for the first time.
Okay.
So there'll be a specific set of time. I believe it's late July, that you can run some summer tryouts and make your teams that way, give offers, and then tryouts will kind of end. That summer tryout time will end, and then we can have our traditional tryouts as well in the fall. Traditional tryouts are 14 and under in October, and then 15 and over kids tryout in November. So
what's the schedule look like for a kid? We talked to Owen a little bit about it, and Breana a little bit about their schedule, but what can somebody expect when they're, I know you have different levels, but they make a club, they make a team. What's their schedule look like? What's their travel schedule look like? What's their time commitment look like?
So we have regional teams and nationals teams. Regional teams is exactly what it sounds like. They stay within the region.
Okay.
That's pretty much on par with every other club in the state. Everybody offers regional teams, nationals teams. Regional teams, I think, often get misunderstood as less talented teams, but a lot of times you have the multi-sport athletes on those teams that can't commit to a national team schedule. So you got those kids that play basketball, right? And then you got those kids that also play baseball or softball. So they select. So sometimes those regional teams have some really good athletes on there that just can't commit time-wise, because there's so many more options than when we were kids for these kids to do. So regional teams start, tryouts would be October, November. Practices start the week after Thanksgiving. And then our regional teams always end about the third week in March. Those regional teams get about 10 to 12 play dates or 10 to 12 tournaments. A play date is, for us, a play date would be any day you play. So if you play in a tournament that's a 2-day tournament, that's 2 play dates.
Okay.
So the regional teams tend to play in more 1-day tournaments. And then the nationals teams, they go, same time. They start the week after Thanksgiving, and then we end in the end of June. This year, the boys end on July 3rd down in Orlando. Which is a little crazy. We're playing indoor volleyball in July. I think it's a little bit too long, but that's AAU and USA volleyball. So that is, I have no control over that.
Yeah, both those seasons, AAU and volleyball, it's such long seasons.
Yeah.
But air conditioning.
And our nationals teams, they play about 22 to 24 play dates.
Okay.
So obviously just a little more time, commitment on the weekends for them.
And how is the age broken down by year? I mean, did they move up like with their grade? Is it kind of like soccer where it's U13, U14 kind of a thing? Or okay.
It's exactly like soccer or baseball.
Sure.
There's a 18 and under, 17 and under, all the way down to some programs. If you can find tournaments, you can have a 9U team.
Sure. Okay.
Those teams are pretty hard. Most of the time in our area, the 9 and 10-year-olds are probably playing on an 11 or 12 U team. My son, who's 9, who just turned 9, he was on his brother's 13U team. Sure. Just because we didn't field the 12U team this year on the boys' side. It's kind of hit and miss, every other year if you get a young team like that. But yeah, just like baseball, just like soccer, all on birth dates, not so much grade level.
Sure.
So I was watching the news, and there was a story about trying some groups in Milwaukee trying to switch to boys volleyball season to spring.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that about, and how does that affect your club teams, or would it? Yeah,
it would affect it. Wisconsin is one of the few states that has boys volleyball in the fall at the same time as girls. Most other states, their volleyball is right now. Their high school boys volleyball season is right now.
Okay.
So it does affect those groups in Milwaukee, or anybody. There was another state that just switched over. It can hurt the recruiting process for some of the kids. Is what they kind of talk about. Our kids are still getting recruited. Owen was just on with you guys. He's going to get heavily recruited. But there's always this little bit of time. So right now, like our boys, we finished 2 weekends ago, all of our boys teams, and our 3 boys nationals teams, they won't play again until May 11th, just because there's nothing for them to play.
Wow.
Because there's no other, everyone else is playing their high school season right now.
Okay.
So some of the bigger clubs, there's Milwaukee Sting down in Milwaukee, one of the biggest clubs in the state. Their kids are just getting back from Europe. They went to Europe because there's just nothing to play, and then they take a couple weeks off and then ramp back up in May. So there's a big time off, and you got to keep these kids motivated. Our kids, we got to keep them motivated at practice because there's nobody to compete against.
Right.
So yeah, it can hurt recruiting a little bit. I think people still get recruited. I know they do. If it switches to, if it would switch to a spring, yes, that would affect us, but we could just take the model from every other state that's already doing it. It's there already. We would just say, okay, well, now we're doing that. So it's not like we'd have to make something up. The program is out there at many different states. We would just take their model and adopt it to us. Would it affect our beach program? Yes, it would affect our beach program a little bit, as our beach program starts in June, but we'd be able to figure it out. Yeah.
Do you think that's going to happen, or is it too early to tell?
Well, the WIA can be interesting to work with,
Yeah.
So I think it could happen. I don't think it's going to happen quick. I think personally, my boys play baseball too. So, maybe if it happened in 10 years, I'd be okay with it, because then my boys could play volleyball, basketball, and baseball in high school. I would be a fan of that. Now, if volleyball switches to a spring, then we're done with baseball,
sure.
Or we're done with volleyball, whatever they choose to do.
Right. Baseball.
Right now, it's set up pretty easy. A lot of our volleyball kids don't really play football, so there's not a real big, difference between that. We tend to get some athletes in the volleyball world that don't make their football teams,
Sure.
Okay.
that still want to do something. That's on the boys' side. That's huge, for a program like Kimberly. They got a pretty good football program
Not
over
bad.
there, and so if we get some of those athletes that just like, no, football's not for me, and we get them in volleyball, that's a huge plus. I think it's weird how I've always thought that their football program in Kimberly helps their volleyball program, because there's just so many kids that want to play on that football team, and not everybody can. And we get some, they get some athletes on the volleyball side.
It's interesting that you say that. We had Roger Hornberger, who's the Kimberly lacrosse coach, and he basically said the same thing. He's excited when he gets a football player on the lacrosse field. They're great athletes, and there's more than football in the world.
Right.
Do you have a lot of multi-athletes? Are most of your athletes multi-sport athletes, or predominantly just volleyball players?
I would say about half are multi-sport athletes. We're definitely a club. We make it well known that we promote multi-sport athletes. We always say multi-sport, but I also say, like, whatever you do, if you play an instrument, or if you ride horses, or if you do any of the millions things that kids can do these days, go and do those things. We promote you doing that. For our multi-sport athletes, or anybody that's doing any other extracurricular stuff, we say give us an honest 50% of your time. I mean, if you're truly missing a practice because you're going to do something else you're passionate about, we're okay with that. Okay. Now, there are some clubs that are a little bit more cutthroat and don't like that. You know, they say, no, you're playing volleyball and that's it. We promote multi-sport athletes, and it's working for us. And I don't think I would ever go away with that. I like these kids doing whatever they can do. Now, if we hear through the grapevine that they're just blowing off practices, of course, right. That changes things, right? But if they got an AAU basketball game or an AAU basketball practice and they got to miss, one of the two practices for volleyball, we are perfectly fine with that.
That's great to hear, because you're right. You do hear the horror stories, and I had a boy that played soccer, and he was more or less told, 100% commitment to this club, and that's as a dad, I don't like that. I mean, that's you're right. I mean, multi athletes, and Tosh can vouch for this. Most of the athletes that we've interviewed, Olympians, anybody that we've had on here, every single one of them have been multi-sport athletes. Not one of them has focused on their skill, and some of these folks participate in the Olympics, for gosh sakes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just the physical side of it, is the most obvious. Like, a lot of people are like, you got to get away from playing just one sport, because that's just such a strain on this joint or that joint, or, and then so then you just try to do a different sport. I think it's so, and then the mental side of it, I just think it's so if you have one really important sport, whether it's basketball, baseball, volleyball, football, and then, hey, your time off, you're still playing, and maybe you play your second sport for a little bit more fun, but you still like the kids. They're still your friends. There's still a lot of good things there. I just think it's just so much healthier physically and mentally for these kids to play multiple stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Volleyball is still on the rise, isn't it? I mean, are the numbers continue every year? Do they continue to go up as far as participation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Every year there's even people notice the boys growing in the area, but there's new girls clubs start every year. There's a new club somewhere, that I'll see them at a tournament. I'm like, what's that? Who is that?
Right.
There's just more and more and more teams playing. And on the boys side, it was last year we had with our 15 and 16-year-old boys, we had to turn away over 50 players.
Wow.
We had to turn them away because we didn't have – it was record-breaking numbers for us. North of Milwaukee, right, we're one of the biggest clubs, the biggest club north of Milwaukee on the boys' side.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then there's two other clubs that have a team or two on the boys' side. But, yeah, we turned away – it was hard to turn away 50 boys, over 50 boys that wanted to play, and we didn't have the gym space for them. Wow. And try to work on that. I did connect with another one of our clubs. Another club in the area. I try to work with the other clubs instead of, going nose to nose with them. And I said, hey, do you have any gym space? Do you have coaches? And they took a night and they figured out they had some gym space and they found some coaches. So then I sent them that email list. And I think 12 of those boys out of over that 50 still got to play on at least one team. So I was happy about that. Even if they weren't playing for FVP, I didn't mind. At least they got to play. So
that's growing the sport.
Yes, the sport is growing. It's huge. Yeah.
So you said you work out of the some of it's out of the Champion Center. I know the Champion Center is thinking about adding some more courts.
Yes.
Obviously that'll help a little bit, but there seems to be more of a need for not just the Champion Center, but even more facilities and more space. How can communities try to bring more space or more? The sport's going to continue to grow. The thing that's holding it back is sounding like it's gym space.
I completely agree. That is, yes. I mean, we've looked at several different options, different buildings here and there to try to do our own facility.
Okay.
I think if a community wanted to invest in a facility, I don't know how it would be full. It would, between basketball, volleyball, even baseball, right? My kids play travel baseball, and the winter baseball stuff, they're looking everywhere to get into facilities, to get some, early throwing in, or some early, early groundwork or whatever. So it would be, we talk about it all the time. Hey, if we win the lottery, right, we would do this or we would do that.
Yep.
I would definitely build a facility. I would, if I had a wish list, it would be a facility with, a place where kids could come and kind of do their homework as well, maybe have some study areas and whatnot to kind of, I'm definitely promote academics as well. But yeah, a community, if they wanted to invest in it, they would get people renting it for sure. The Champion Center is they're this close, right? They're a grant away from the state on adding a whole, where I met you guys, they're going to build a whole nother one of those right behind it is the plan. Another 8 volleyball courts and another 4 basketball courts.
It's incredible.
And they're thinking they're going to have no problem filling it. So yeah, there is an option there. I don't know how you sell that to a community, that wants to invest in something, but I think it would be a no-brainer, something that is just healthy for the kids to do, and a good thing and a good outlet for these kids to do. Right. And you could have basketball and volleyball in there. I think it's a no-brainer for a community to invest in that. Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly have started with the Champion Center, and we had Matt Tenhinken on a while back, and similar to what you were saying. I mean, like you said, they're looking to add on, and it's a hidden gem in this area, and interesting what Matt said. It's also it leads to tourism as well, and sports tourism. Some of these tournaments you go to, especially down in like Indianapolis and things like that. I mean, there's hundreds of teams that are playing in these. It's not your little mom and pop tournament. No, it would. Yes, if we could, when the money that the Champion Center can bring into the, when they don't host a lot of boys tournaments, but they host the girls stuff, the hotels and the eating and like all the money that they bring into the community, it's millions of dollars. I help run the Wapaka boat ride down in Oshkosh. It's the largest outdoor tournament in the country. And when Oshkosh started giving us the numbers that we bring in, I mean, it was over $10 million that weekend. I don't know how they calculate that stuff. I read it a couple of times. Like, what do you mean? And that's a pretty big number. But when they talk about they take into gas and hotels and food and all the things, it's crazy the amount of money that an event like that can bring into a city or a community. No, absolutely. So Owen and Breana were saying that the Nationals are in Florida this year. So you'll be traveling down there what time of year? Well, that was July, right? When it was nice and warm.
Yeah. So the girls are a little bit earlier, like the third or fourth week in June. And then the boys finish up July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So, yes, way too hot. I mean, I get out of the Uber and straight into the convention center. It is way too hot. The boys are talking about, my own sons are talking about, hey, can we come down? We're going to be in Orlando. We could go to Disney. I'm like, I don't know if we want to walk around Disney in July. Dad will melt. I'm not a small guy, so I will probably melt. But, yes, it's I mean, it's a nice place. We go to AAU, always holds their nationals in Orlando. It hasn't moved anywhere for a while now. The USA nationals, they tend to move around a little bit. But we send our girls and our boys to the AAU nationals.
Sure. Jason, you don't like standing on asphalt in the middle of July in Florida?
No, not at all. No way. Just getting cooked from the ground up.
Right.
No.
Medium rare, right?
So as we look and you look into the future with your program, with FVP and volleyball in general, what do you see as the future? What's the growth going to be? What are some ideas that you have to continue to promote volleyball, or, what are some things that you're looking forward to?
I think on the girls' side, it's very well known, right? Club volleyball has been around for a very long time. So there's not a lot of effort needed on the girls' side. There will always be, unfortunately, every year there are girls that don't make teams, right? Okay. So the only thing that are holding back anybody from having it is just gym space, and coaches on the girls' side. On the boys' side, it would be getting the younger kids to start a little bit earlier. A lot. And now they just don't know about it yet. They don't know about boys club volleyball, right? They don't know about it until, that's why we have a big jump at 15 years old, because that's the first time they're like, oh, I can go for the boys volleyball team, in high school. And then after their freshman year in high school, then we get a bunch of kids coming out for club volleyball because they want to make their varsity team. So I think if we could get into some of and you run into that problem because we're an LLC, so like getting into or soliciting into a school, right? And that's always a murky waters, right? But just getting the word out there that, hey, we offer a boys 12U volleyball team, and we would offer 2 of them if the need be, because we could find coaches for that. I'm looking forward to that. That is a challenge. That's something it's always challenging. We have programs like Kimberly helping out. Matt Seidel, Owen's head coach, he runs a really great, I think Owen said he coached one of those middle school programs. So Matt Seidel used to be with FVP all those years ago. He helped Jeff start it. So he helps promote our the FVP volleyball club. But just getting in there in front of those kids, letting them know what it's about, letting them know that it doesn't start with a national team. You don't have to go to Orlando when you're 11 years old. You can stay pretty much, between here and Milwaukee. So yes, I'm definitely looking forward to that, but that will be the biggest challenge to grow our club, would be getting it more known that we offer boys teams at that young age.
How is it finding coaches? I mean, with a sport that certainly on the boys side, maybe, it's just starting to gain popularity, not a lot of people have played it. So I would imagine finding coaches is a difficult challenge.
Yeah, on both sides, boys and girls, it's tough to get coaches. It just, in any sport, you're not, unless you're coaching an NCAA team, a football team or something, you're not making a lot of money here,
Right.
So our coaches are doing it because they love the sport, and we try to pay them as much as we can, and we try to do everything that we can to make their job as easy as possible. But it is tough. It's a lot of time. We get a lot of coaches that, you get them before they start their family, right?
Sure.
And then they, but once you start your family, it's just too much.
Yeah.
You just can't be. So we get them for a few years, then I'm engaged, right? Okay, you're engaged, and then okay, and you know it's coming, right? We've got about 2 or 3 more years left, and then we're starting a family, and you totally understandable.
Yeah.
And if you're around long enough, then maybe you get them back after a couple of years after their kids are grown up a little bit. But on the other side of that, we get some coaches that we're a club that we let parents coach their kids. Okay. Some clubs don't, and that's fine. That's one way to handle it. I don't mind at all if I get a coach, right? Because their kid is on I'm okay with that. That's, especially if they're qualified. I think every club has the problem of trying to find coaches. I've been in the volleyball world long enough in Wisconsin. I know enough people. So that helps a little bit. I can reach into the different networking areas that I can go to and find some coaches. But our retention has been really good. The best it has been in the last 2 years. We've kept the most coaches that we've ever had at FVP. So that's good. If you can keep your coaches, that's best practice.
Sure. Do you have a lot of your athletes? Do they go on and play in college? I know Breana had talked about going to Madison and maybe playing club. Obviously, Owen looks like he's going to get some recruits. How is the recruiting? Where do a lot of your players end up going, or do they stick with the sport?
So on the boys' side, quite a bit of them are getting recruited. Division II. Now Division III, right? In Wisconsin, Stevens Point has an actual NCAA men's team. So I think the other state schools are soon to follow. But then, of course, our top boys are getting recruited to some Division I schools. So on the girls' side, we tend to be more of a Division III type. Our girls are going Division III, maybe Division II. We had a girl, Elena Christensen from Freedom, actually. She played with Breana last year. She went to a division school out east. Now she's transferred back. Now she's going to go to UW Whitewater. But yeah, we have some kids getting recruited, more so probably on the boys' side than our girls' side. But we have some players that could definitely play in college on the both boys and girls side.
Oh, that's cool to hear for sure. Are some of them coming back then to help coach later on?
Yes, you get them. Like sometimes they come back. Like if we have enough people in our beach program, I hire them to help out with our beach program. Because it's summer job, right? Just come to the sand and for 3 hours and come out and help us train the little ones in some sand. It's pretty easy money for these college kids.
Sure.
And then I see at least a couple of them in the next year or two when they graduate. If they come back to the Valley, I don't see them not coming to coach. We got some volleyball nuts that have went through the program that just can't get away from it. So yes, I see some of them coming back to coach for us.
That's good to hear. Definitely.
You're talking about the bar and playing volleyball. Where did you play in high school? And did you just and how did you just follow your parents, or did you just how did that competitive nature of volleyball start with you?
So it started all with my parents. Again, when I was young, I hated volleyball. They hit this stupid white ball, right? I was a basketball kid. Hit this stupid white ball over the net. I didn't understand it. And then, of course, bumping around, peppering with your mom and dad. Okay, I had some skills at it. And then I remember I remember specifically when I fell in love with it. It was the first time I was at a tournament in Bowler, Wisconsin. You guys know where Bowler, Wisconsin is, up there by Gresham. And my mom and dad were playing. I was in the other gym playing pickup basketball, and a team needed a guy. There was no. It was a co-ed sixes tournament. They needed a guy, and there was no one there to play. My dad and mom came in and said, "Hey, can you sub with this team?" I said, "Yeah, whatever, I'll do it." And I knew I could serve or whatever. And I'd never really played. So I got out of the basketball game and I went into the gym, and I remember all my aunts and uncles are there, big Indian family, right? I mean, everyone's cheering, and back and forth. I got some serves or whatever, and I rotated around to the front, and I remember getting my first block. Right? I blocked this luckiest block ever, right? I mean, I was probably like this on the net, barely above the net, blocked this guy, full grown guy, blocked, boom. And it was a feeling I had never found on the basketball court. Yeah, it's just different, I've blocked shots in basketball, but it's different in volleyball. And from that moment on, I was hooked. So then I started played with my cousins quite a bit, played anywhere I could. And then we were in a tournament, I believe it was in New London. Actually, I know it was in New London. And we played my mom and dad in the semifinals. And we almost beat them. We went 3 and we almost beat them. And after that tournament, my mom and dad ended up winning. After that tournament, my dad said, "You're playing with us from now on." Like, he wasn't gonna have me beat him. So then that kind of started it. And those were the best times. I mean, I played with people from, Division I athletes, people that played on the Olympic. I mean, everywhere. I played with some great players in the area. People often ask me what was the most fun, and it was, when I think about it now, I mean, I'm 47 now, playing with my mom and dad, that was the most fun. That's
awesome.
That's something that a lot of kids don't get to do, at a pretty high level. So, and plus you'd win the tournament and mom and dad would hand me $100 when I was 14 or 15 years old.
There you go.
That was a lot of money back then.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of.
So then I just kept going. And as mom and dad got done playing, then I started playing more and more with adult. And then of course the bar started and started playing there, and started playing doubles, grass triples, indoor. I played every form of the game as I could, and then just kind of started winning a lot,
Sure.
So, that's kind of how, hey, I'm pretty good at this, and I just kept going with it. So
excellent. We've mentioned the bar a few times. Are those leagues, are they as popular as they were in the 90s? I mean, back in the day, they had 8 courts going 5 nights a week, 4 nights a week.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is not as popular. And if I could figure that out, I'm sure Jess Miller and the boys would be would be happier if I could figure it out, because I don't know the growth, right? The growth in the sport is not matching, what we had. You talked about the 90s. It was there. Those leagues would start at 5:30, and the last match wouldn't get done till after midnight sometimes. On all the courts. At one time, I believe the bar in Appleton had 9 courts going when they had all the courts going outside.
Yeah.
Wow.
So those two don't mix all the time, where I see this huge growth within the younger kids, right? Club volleyball, high school volleyball, and then the league stuff. I don't know why they are not transitioning over to it. We're trying to help. I'm trying to help. We get these kids into the sand volleyball at the bar, like, hey, they can play leagues here, So will it come back? Possibly, but nowhere near the way it was in the 90s.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because softball is the exact same thing. Memorial Park back in the day, same kind of schedule all night, every night you'd have softball games, and it's not like that anymore. And I don't know if that was before the internet, before the phone, before a lot of things. I don't know what the reason is either, but it's definitely different, isn't it?
Yes, it is, for sure.
Yeah, Jason, this was great. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the club or FVP that we didn't cover?
Pretty much we covered everything. I grabbed some numbers when I thought you guys would probably talk about like the growth and the size of it.
Yeah.
I grabbed some numbers from the Badger region, so for our Badger region championship, so that's the end of the Badger region season, right? We had 747 teams competed. We had 37 division champions. We had a total of 2,062 matches played with 178 officials, right?
Nice.
Wow.
And that all took place in 4 different venues in 3 different cities over 3 different weekends.
Wow.
Appleton, it was the first time the Badger Region Championships came to Appleton at the Champion Center,
Nice. Yep.
which was pretty awesome. Appleton, Green Bay, and Milwaukee. So that's, over 2,000 matches. Was pretty impressive when the region put those numbers together and emailed me. I was like, wow, I got to share that with Joe and Eric for sure. Like that's
incredible.
The Badger region in Wisconsin is a very well respected region. There's 40 regions of USA Volleyball, the Badger region being one of them.
Okay.
And we're definitely one of the more respected regions. The region does it right. We have full-time region members down there that work in the office. So, but yeah, those numbers, I thought, man, I gotta tell those guys.
Yeah, that's
some
impressive.
people don't realize over 2,000 matches. That was just crazy when I read that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It sounds like you have pretty decent officiating numbers. Or how is it the officiating side? Do you have enough officials? I suppose that's always a battle as well.
Yes, that is always a battle. We are one of the regions that we have the Badger region. Sarah Voigt does a great job. She's in charge of all our officials. She has a training program, right? So they have a mentor program. So they get these officials. Now, years ago when I played or when I was coaching, I knew every official everywhere we went because it was the same people, just like softball and baseball. It was the same officials everywhere. And now I probably know less officials than I've ever had. I don't know more than I do know. Because they're starting to get younger officials, so
that's great to hear.
It's on the up and up. You see these younger kids up there on the stands. Where there's sometimes where you see somebody older and be like, "Ooh, should they even be up on that stand anymore?" They do a good job, but those stands are high. Now we got some younger blood in there. So yes, I believe our region does a much better job than others. So good that actually some other regions steal our officials.
Oh, sure.
But it happens, and it is what it is. So, but yeah, officials there's so many clubs now hosting their own tournaments.
Okay.
And Sarah assigns officials to all these tournaments.
Sure.
So on any given weekend, there's 20 plus tournaments going on in the state.
Wow.
So you got to get officials for all of those. And if you don't get officials, then you got to have the coaches officiate or something.
Yep.
But for the most part, I think our training, it goes pretty well.
That's good. Well, I've never met Sarah, but I can vouch for her. That is one of the most thankless jobs ever, is being an assigner for officials. I did that for lacrosse for a few years, and it's you're just trying to move puzzle pieces. Just put that puzzle together anyway, because the last thing you want to do is cancel games. And unfortunately, in lacrosse, there's even less officials, and that has happened before, where you have to cancel the game, and that doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah, and then lastly, I'd like to definitely. It's the second week in July. If you guys are around, come on out to the Wapaka boat ride.
Oh, yeah.
FVP helps out with the club, with some of the juniors club stuff that goes on out there, but it's the largest outdoor tournament in the world. There was over 2,600 teams that participated last year.
Wow.
The AVP, the professional AVP, they come and play. Yep. The sand event. There's juniors on Friday. The big event is grass triples on Saturday. So come on out if you guys are out there. I mean, bring a camera or maybe do a podcast from there. It's basically like Country USA, but with volleyball.
That's awesome.
There's over 300 grass nets. It's something that you got to experience. And we added the juniors part of it. We have professionals. We have Loie Ball, the gold medal winner. He comes in and does a clinic for the juniors on Thursday.
Nice.
We have professionals out of system come in. They do an adult clinic. If you guys want to stop out, it's always the second full weekend in July.
Okay. Absolutely. How long has that been going on?
That's been going on for close to 40 years now.
Jeez, I obviously don't get it.
It started in Wapaka. It's called the Wapaka Boat Ride.
Yeah.
And we just got too big. There was no place in Wapaka that could hold us. So we moved around from golf course to golf course. We were on Country USA grounds one year. We were at EAA one year on their grounds. And then we found a home at Brighton Acres in Oshkosh. And we've been there for, I think it is over 10 years now there.
Yeah.
And we found a home there. So we have camping, all kinds of stuff. But it originated right there in Little Wapaka. I'm sure you guys have been there before.
Yeah, been through there.
It was called the boat ride because we rented those double-decker paddle boats from the Channel Lakes bar there.
Sure,
exactly.
And after the tournament, we'd take everybody out on the boats.
Nice.
Out onto the Channel Lakes. And now we can't do that. We need a cruise liner to take everybody out now. But we still call it the Wapaka Boat Ride or the U.S. Open of Grass Volleyball. But FVP gets to help. We help out with those camps. So some of our coaches and a lot of our players come to those camps as well. So you'll see some FVP people running around there. So
awesome.
But I definitely wanted to kind of invite you guys out to there if you guys got nothing going on in July.
Well, I feel like I've been living under a rock because the thing is mammoth, and I've never been to it. I'm afraid to admit I haven't heard of it. That's on me. Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah, so I think that's it. Will definitely want to say thanks for having us. This was my first interview on a podcast anyway. So
and you're stuck with us.
The kids did great.
The kids did an excellent job. Yeah, the kids did fantastic.
Well, folks, our Red Smith Banquet Throwback this week. It's a great one. It takes us back to 1999. What a year, and what a Hall of Famer we have. Not only a Brewer Hall of Famer, but an MLB Hall of Famer as well. And we'll talk about number 4, Paul Molitor. Man, it was great to have Molly, I tell you. It's one of the all-time greats, one of my favorite Brewers, one of the best pure hitters ever.
What you are about to listen to and hear is only part of the speech by Paul Molitor. The entire full interview is on our YouTube channel. Just search Newsa-Cast or check out the link in the show notes. Head over to YouTube and watch the entire speech of Paul Molitor on Sunday. one of my idols growing up, and it was fantastic to sit and listen to him. And also got to enjoy a few beverages after the show at the filling station. So a great throwback.
Judge Cannon introduces Paul Molitor, who was our Red Smith Award winner in 1999 in Appleton, Wisconsin at the Radisson Paper Valley Hotel at the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet.
Red Smith Sports Awards Banquet Throwback.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport in Wisconsin and also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome.
Again, it's a great thrill at this time to introduce to you the recipient of the Red Smith Award.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very rousing and much appreciated welcome to our honored guests and ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, a pleasure to be here at the Red Smith dinner. I'm not sure where to go with this when your introduction is longer than your speech, but we'll see what we can do. And also, after playing the last couple of years in the Metrodome, it's good to see a big crowd. And I think this banquet outdrew about a third of our games last year. My throat's still a little bit red, and that's, I think, just a residual side effect from some of the choking that went on at the Metrodome on Sunday. But it's... I don't know, I did get attached to the Packers in my years in Milwaukee, but, growing up with Fran Tarkington and some of the old teams, the ghosts are still there, so we'll see what happens. Indeed, it's a pleasure to be back in Appleton. I think back to 1977 after signing my first professional contract and playing for the Burlington Bees and making my way through the many cities in the Midwest League, including Appleton. That's when they were the Foxes, of course, and facing the likes of Harold Baines and really some very great teams. But it's good to be back. And I think the last time I was probably here was one of my former teammates, Chris Bosio, married a local girl here from Appleton and had his wedding up here. And I think that's the last time I had a chance to be through. Just a few brief comments, talk a little bit about some very fond memories of my Brewer days. A lot of great things happened in my 15 years here in Milwaukee, and I certainly was overwhelmed with the phone call from Wendy and Laurel and finding out the news about them retiring the number 4. Very humbling, of course, when you think of Hank Aaron and Raleigh Fingers and Robin Yount. It's just, it's a little bit much to think that you can join that group with their number being retired, but it certainly is appreciated. But as I think back to those times, it's not only what happened on the field, it's the friendships that I was able to develop with the people in Wisconsin, of course, the city of Milwaukee, and also some very special teammates. I think my number one highlight, if I had to pick one out of my time in Milwaukee as far as baseball was concerned, was that Robin Yount and Jim Gantner and myself have the longest tenure of 3 teammates in Major League Baseball history. And those were 2 guys that I could always lean on. I think it was Robin that said, yeah, Jimmy, Paulie, and I, we're 2 of a kind. I think it was, but In closing, I'd like to say a few things about the award itself. I realize the history of the award and some of the great names that are on the list of previous recipients. To the young people who receive scholarships and the people in the community who are honored for their work in various efforts and endeavors, I can only say that I've realized, probably through experience, that the privilege that it's been to be a major league player and the opportunities that have come forth from that privilege are unbelievable. And unfortunately, I think at times in my career, maybe a little different from what Judge might have said, was that I didn't always take advantage of those. There were times where I maybe abused that stature rather than used it in a constructive way. But through time, I learned that when you're given opportunities, certain privileges, tremendous responsibility comes with that. And it's amazing how you can affect lives in a positive way if you take advantage of that. And I think we can see that here in this atmosphere of this banquet tonight, the people that have been recognized, that indeed, if you do take time, you can make a difference. So thank you very much.
Well, Tosh, another enjoyable throwback. I love our throwbacks in this one with Molly. Brings us back to our youth and just one of the smoothest hitters I've ever seen. Man, I love number 4, Paul Molitor.
Yeah, and it brought me back to that night, which was fabulous, and it was a lot of fun after having some shots of Jaeger with him and listening to him and Jerry tell stories. Obviously that wasn't in the podcast, but if you people would like to hear some of those stories, check Joe and I out at the nearest bar.
Yeah, exactly. Right. At the local bar.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That's we've said this before, but most of the post banquet nights were a lot of fun. But especially in those 90s, early 2000s, we learned to enjoy ourselves. That's for sure. Well, Tosh, it's not an official show until we figure out what's forgotten and what we're never forgetting. So how about you, Tosh? What's forgotten in your world today?
Well, it's not really me, but after listening to a lot of my colleagues who did not have power outages for sure. I got lucky. We didn't lose power, but a lot of colleagues who were, worried about sump pumps and flooding basements and food in the freezer and different things like that with the power. And we had a lot of people in the community without power from that snowstorm, a lot of branches falling on power lines and things like that. So anytime we get those power outages, that is something that I would definitely like to forget.
Yeah, I think everybody would. I feel sorry for those people. I know a couple of times when I was delivering mail that next day, there was a lot of generators going, and I felt for those people. A lot of candlelight, a lot of funny posts on Facebook.
Yeah, that's definitely. So, Joe, if we get past power outages, how about yourself? What do you like to forget?
Well, Tosh, it's not necessarily what I'd like to forget, but it's what has been. It's what's forgotten that we should remember, I guess. I know I do this quite a bit, but one of the cool things that I've said this before with the Newsa-Cast, I love the fact that we do have some loyal listeners. Steve, the letter carrier, one of them, but I found out I have another person who listens to the Newsa-Cast. One of my supervisors with Greek descent came up to me and said, "Joe, I've got to tell you something. Everybody in America, you think Giannis is the greatest Greek basketball player ever." He said, "I got to tell you something. As a Greek, I've got somebody better. Us Greeks consider Nick Gallis to be the greatest Greek basketball player ever." So it dawned on me that I better check this guy out. In fact, he is forgotten. But if you ask most Europeans and most Greek folks, in fact, Nick Gallus is and was voted as one of the greatest shooter, the greatest basketball player in Europe history. So voted to many of the all-time 50 greatest players. He's in the Hall of Fame in what's the equivalent to the NBA over in Europe. He also played at Seton Hall in the late 70s. Excuse me. He was a point guard, but his coach, little tie back to Red Smith, was none other than the one and the legendary Bill Rafferty was his coach at Seton Hall. So he
there you go.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. So now I wanted to thank Adam who led me on this Nick Gallus quest to actually see who the greatest Greek basketball player is. I mean, I guess I got to still say Giannis is the best Greek player. I mean, it's to me, that's kind of a no-brainer, but certainly a tip of the cap to Nick Gallus is a forgotten basketball player. So Tosh, I know that was a little rambling, but let's go over to the other side. What is something that you are never forgetting?
Well, I'm going to lead with my stomach, and we're going to talk a little bit about never forgetting small-town bakeries. And had brought home some small-town bakery from Hilltop Bakery in Kaukauna.
Yeah, good
yesterday.
call.
Surprised my wife with a few donuts, and I tell you what, we have some great small-town bakeries. We have Simple Simon, we have Manderfields and Appleton. All three of them, you can't go wrong. I love them all, but there's something about Hilltop and Simple Simon. They're just small. You can tell that they're just, yeah, they're all three of them are fantastic. I love Manderfield's donuts.
Yeah,
I don't think you can go wrong with any of them.
Hilltop is fantastic. I'm Simple Simon simply because I'm close by.
Right.
In fact, every once in a while I bring them to work. They're so good. It's an easy ride. But oh my gosh, yeah, Tosh. I mean, Hilltop. You're right. And the smell. Oh my God, that's just a top smell ever. Just
I think
incredible.
what I like about Hilltop is the fact that it's in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Go back to Hughes' Chocolates and Oshkosh, and these are they're in the middle of a neighborhood, which is really cool.
Jacob's Meat Market, Simple Simon, they're all just part of the neighborhood. Yeah, it's something special. It makes our town. I love that. Absolutely, it's the fabric of the town for sure.
Joe, what are you never forgetting this week?
I'm never forgetting that I want a donut. I know that chocolate Persian with peanuts, but no, what I'm never forgetting, and I've been thinking about this for a while now. It's been interesting, kind of making some different friends, some newer friends, and it's dawning on me that I'm kind of learning them, getting to learn friends through text conversations. My older friends, we text information back and forth, jokes, maybe, you and I communicate, podcast stuff, but certain people maybe that are, generation, say, younger than me, they talk a lot through text, and it's been kind of interesting to get to know people a little bit differently through text. I mean, you still have face-to-face interaction for sure, but I don't know. I've found that I'm never forgetting that the generation or two behind me communicates in different ways, and text being one of them.
You becoming tech savvy?
Well, some say I am, but who knows, Tosh? Who knows? All right, well, Tosh, that another great episode, an episode I'm never forgetting. It's always a hoot, Tosh, always a hoot.
Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Newsa-Cast. We'd really appreciate it if you hit up our social pages, subscribe, like, follow, and don't be afraid to engage. Head over to our YouTube channel to get exclusive content like the full interviews and speeches from the past Red Smith banquets.
Thanks for listening to the Newsa-Cast. We really appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and tell a friend. A huge thank you to Diggstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig or find them on Spotify. Help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your pods or sharing the Newsa-Cast. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram. One of the best ways to help us grow is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Northeastern Wisconsin Sports Advancement is a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness for youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through 3 initiatives: the Every Kid Plays Grant, the Gives Back Initiative, and scholarships to student athletes.